I figured they were all back here. But there's that. When we do budget, then you might want to bring that, it's like, yes, but compare where we are. Are you the auditor? I'm Tony McKelvey.
Rachel, nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too.
Did y'all get to come away soon?
Yeah, I did.
Sometimes they make these days.
As a matter of fact, I had my with me and stuff.
Well, I don't cover something even the detail and be talking about that. Which I haven't.
Okay, all right.
We'll get kind of halfway along here, chapter, the black chapter.
Yeah, I pretty much, I went through everything. The only thing is because I was here for 26 years and retired. And then I've been gone for 8, so I'm coming back, and there's stuff that's, and there's stuff that's going on.
Sure.
That, like all these lease things, and I think that relates to this incubator thing that they've got out there, and then the Sterling and everything. And so it just, I was, when you talked about it, it just didn't, specify where it was coming from, and so it gave the amount. And when I start working on the budget this year, one of the things that okay, yeah, it's like 4 pieces. Yes, that was something they recorded and everything, of course, you know, it is, you know, that's something y'all have to on the process, and so. Put that in.
I didn't take them up.
Yeah, so basically, the part that y'all see on that was for that street sweeper. Yeah, so that was.
Yeah, I got that one.
This one all relates to, it's on Sterling.
Okay.
Those are those buildings, so 87, gas 87, the seaside and the silver side, and so you have to book it as a lease receivable. It's a recurring flow. So that gets amortized over the life of the lease. And the payments that get applied are lease receivable. So where, now when it's broken out, this, see, I saw the 1 million, and I didn't get out. Yeah, I saw that right there. It was here. But the other one, 1,000,008. That's that deferred. I can send you the work of the tax audit, so it'll break it out and you can see it individually if you want. I just, like I said, I was just trying to, when I was talking here, I was trying to tie it all together so I knew what it was. Yeah. And so that answers that. And I will also just. It's a lot. Oh, no, is that 87 million? Is it everything or 22? Okay, I was gonna say, or is it just new, since I've been here because of the releases and stuff? Yeah, it will be in charge. So, and it'll be going forward that way. So basically, they just moved their income statement. Situation, you have rent, expense. Now we're going to it meets all the criteria to be calculated that way. So that's how the big picture.
Yeah, and right here, even though they had the money, it was still listed as a.
Right, because they'll earn it over time as that is progressive.
Well, that was American.
Yeah, that's American. Yes, but yes, I'm. Yes, it's in the town and the city uses it, that'll be reduced. So it's unearned until it's spent.
Okay.
Basically, you got it in your cash, but you haven't spent it to earn it. Makes sense. And like I said, that pretty much I was able to tie everything up pretty much together. The only other concern that I have is to, since I've been here, is that exempting areas. That would not take. So that you know what it is and do something. This is.
Hey, go ahead. Let me give you. There's your birthday stuff.
Okay, thank you.
You wanna see this? I don't know if anybody's done it. If they're. I mean, yeah, I know, that's the reason I'm thinking, you wanna see it.
How many gonna be at home before people do?
No, no, I'll be here this weekend. I had to go to the military for the last 3 weekends, so, I'm glad to be here. It's such a hard
That was my, we're going like Martin. Okay. It's mine. Thought they learned that little phrase. I thought they learned the lesson the last time we went up there on the phone. You get it on the floor, especially if you go down that chimney rock, and they ain't gonna get it with it. Man, and there's so many boats in the water, so it's like the ocean. You get 3 or 4 foot waves out there. So we ain't talking small boats. No. Some of them boats, some of them boats should be in those. But they want to go, so I'm tagging along. Think about that.
Hey. That's 3, should be 3 June.
Hey, you taking another day off? No, man. Forgot the cat, it's going to the way, you can believe it. You there for one way. Yeah. You know, so we didn't just turn it, that turn it. Your mic. You're this one? You're this one? Yeah. I'm not gonna be here next week, I just, let's do it, just skip.
Okay, good afternoon, time is actually a little after 3:30. I'd like to call the work session to order. We begin with a presentation of the 2022 audit by Ms. Rachel Young. Please,
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with y'all today to talk about the audit, and we appreciate the opportunity to perform the audit for y'all for fiscal year 22. I'd like to just start out by saying that the opinion on the audit is what we call an unmodified opinion. That is what sometimes is called a clean opinion, but essentially that means there were no issues or findings that we need to report. The financial statements were stated materially correct in accordance with the governmental accounting standards. So just wanted to point that out from the beginning. Y'all have copies in front of y'all or not?
Yeah.
You do, okay, perfect. So if you'll flip over for me on the first page there that has our letterhead, that's essentially what that report is telling you. That's the independent auditor's report. And you can see there, the first little paragraph talks about the opinion, so that's what I just covered. And then if you'll flip over a couple more pages for me on page 2, you'll see the statement of net position. So essentially that's your balance sheet. It has the assets and the liabilities of the town, of the city, and the retained earnings is called net position for a governmental entity. So that would be your equity section there. Yeah.
When you say cash and cash equivalents, I know what a certificate of deposit is, but what do you classify as that?
So some of that could be, I think generally for y'all, it's just cash. That's just a term that's typically used.
In other words, you're working cash and check.
Yes, your operating accounts, your cash accounts, checking accounts, yes. And then you've got the line below that for the certificates of deposit. So, yes, basically it's just checking accounts for y'all, yes. Any other questions on the balance sheet? There's a couple kind of unique items in a governmental entity related to the pensions that you can see there, the deferred outflows and inflows. That relates to the pension with RSA, and that's just accounting standards require that to be on there with the fluctuations in the valuation from year to year. So those just changed based on the valuation report that RSA provides to the auditors to report that. But sometimes I get questions about that because it looks a little weird compared to a for-profit business or something like that. If you flip over to the next page, page 3, that's the overall, basically income statement for the city. And as you can see there towards the bottom, the change in net position was a positive number for the year. So essentially y'all had plenty of revenues to cover the expenditures for the city during that year. So especially thinking back to 22, and even we can still talk about it today, but just inflation, the rising cost of everything, the city was able to cover its expenses. And so that's something to feel good about, for sure.
So we get to what?
Yes. So one thing that was new for this period, there was a new accounting standard that came out as Governmental Accounting Standards Board Standard 87, and it changed a little bit of how leases are treated. I'm going to hit the high level. If anybody wants me to talk about that in more detail, please ask. But basically, some of the leases that were typically just showing up on the income statement side, so it was either lease or rent revenue or rent expense, they wanted that to actually be shown on the balance sheet. So if we flip back over to page 2 for a second. You'll see up there in the assets, a lease receivable. That's related to the 3 buildings that y'all lease and rent. So the Sterling property that y'all, or the Sterling lease that y'all have, I think it is at J&L and GPT. I'm getting those right. I think that's right. So that's what that's related to, but I know that looks a little different. If you were to pull out the fiscal year 21 audit and compare it to this, you might question like, where'd that come from? It's a geography thing related to that accounting standards implementation. So it gets expensed out, or excuse me, the revenue shows up as the lease gets, the payments come in to y'all every month and everything for those leases. So that will go down as the lease is paid out, the lease receivable there. On the flip side of that, there was a new lease for a street sweeper. That's an obligation of the city to pay for. So that's down there in lease obligations. That's really the only new accounting standard that was implemented during fiscal year 22. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at y'all, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
On the lease obligation for the street sweeper you talked about, this was for 2022, but I think the lease term that expired and we now took it back in, so that we should have.
Okay. So yeah, 22 is the year it was first acquired and the lease was obtained, and so it sounds like y'all have already kind of changed that by this time. But yes, that was the first year.
Those lease receivables are for the term of the leases, right?
Yes. So it's by the term of the leases, it's amortized based on
So,
that.
so it's for the whole period, okay.
Yes.
Now, what happens if they just, say for example, if they offset a lease amount, because they've done some roof work, these, I think, I don't know, was it Sterling?
Two different.
And they did some roof repairs and the city allowed them to take that credit against their lease amount.
So it'll need to be reported for that, like whatever value they put on that will be considered a lease payment. So that's important in trades. So.
Get the lease and put an expenditure for the
Whenever she
repairs,
Cash for it, that'll go for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
where it would
gets
show
treated
them.
Virtually the same.
That's the number they throw there when they come in and. talk
Those
about
AC
stuff.
repairs on the
Bring it in.
storage building that had to be,
When it, page 3.
they had to be purified here
Right above
in the buildings. So they had to get a temporary building, office space
Right above lodging check.
for another.
I was questioning, do we need to look at this some future time? $131,000 seems very small number for lodging tax, but the amount of lodging we have in this town. The schools they say, that always when somebody comes to about an event, depending how much it's going to increase our lodging tax. Either we're not collecting them correctly, or it's not, we're not charging them. Now, that simply put.
I'll defer to Tony Mellon
Yeah, I know,
on
that's
that.
something we need to address, that,
Yeah.
I saw that.
And it may be how, Avenue sends that in on their report. It
Maybe
could be
that's
some
why I asked if it put in
classification.
something,
Right.
something else.
Probably not split out.
I mean, heck, you know, you look at alcohol taxes, watch that. Yeah, it's, well, you probably, you ride by in Monroeville, and how many there are there? Ooh.
Other questions?
Oh, yes, that was the reason why I said it out, you know, so it's back there, I had, you know, come back, be confident with it. Well, I know that there was something that I was putting back and we get talk about.
That's it, me, I question, we're actually wrong, but it seems like a low number, it seems to not being reported properly or not collected properly, or either it is, and what comparison we charge in the other agreement.
Levin, I can help you with that in
Okay.
a few minutes.
Okay.
Well, like I said, we appreciate the opportunity to work with y'all on this. We appreciate the cooperation from everybody here at the city hall, and also Jackson Thornton for the work they did, getting everything ready for us, so. I'll be glad to hang around if you'd like me to for any further questions, or they've got my contact information, if something comes up after the meeting, somebody works at it for.
Okay.
I'm in Bruton. Yes, sir. We do. We're in Fairhope, Foley, Mobile, and Bruton.
I know, during the time that we were coming back and we were waiting to get this report, I guess we ran into some snags that was supposed to be, you can describe what those holdups were. So the council will understand the some of the challenges.
I asked him every meeting since November, what
He
about?
told me, he checked in with me, he said, I'm gonna get asked, so I want my update.
But we weren't getting a good answer from either from him or to y'all. What do you think?
So I'll start back from the beginning, when the proposal was accepted and all of that. In that, we had a timeline that we were expecting at the time of starting around the middle of July and having it issued by the first part of September. We didn't get the information to even start on the audit until late in September. So that timeline obviously had passed. So then we had to work it into an already pretty full fall and spring schedule to be able to work on it. And then, we had some things with Jackson Thornton that they had to go back and work through about some of this leasing standard that I talked about. They went back and updated some things with that. And we had a couple things that were just delays on getting information for us to be able to complete it. So that slowed it down some more. So it was just kind of, it wasn't any one thing, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. It just took a little bit of time to get through it all. So, we got there and everything was fine, but it was slower than we would have liked it as well, for sure.
Great, and then, who we work with, a contract we have on the construction job. We can give us a time frame, and if it's not met by that time, then there's penalty for that part of it. We're into already, we haven't even started on 23, and we're already looking at a budget for 25. It's, of course, we don't hands-on as much, as little, any city does, the things that work well. But it's hard to really be responsible and doing our job if we're having more information ahead of time. Frustrating here,
But as you stand now, if you had to do the 23 audit, would you still run into the same type of obstacles that you ran into?
I don't know that we would. I mean, we've got some openings in our schedule that we didn't have last year during this time because some jobs we've been able to finish them sooner and things like that. But it all depends on when Jackson Thornton has 23 ready for us and that kind of thing as well. So I don't foresee that it would take nearly as long as this one did. It's our second year going through everything also, so we know, some things are first year audit issues that you have to update everything for the first time, and the second year you can roll it forward and pick up from there. So, no, I don't anticipate that it would take as long as this one took. No.
Now, I was just gonna say that another we retained Jackson Thornton for 22 based on their suggestion. And for 23, because we thought that we had everything that was straightened out so that we wouldn't have to go back to Jackson.
Okay, well, I didn't know that.
we got to go back to two people. Right. I said, we not asked for bids or not asked for anything I know of from either one of them. No.
No, we haven't submitted an engagement letter for 23 at this time.
I got a couple months ago, so it's time for us to kind of be looking at that too, or we want to be in worse shape than we want to do.
That's what I was asking. Yeah,
But it's clear, yeah.
No, it should, from what I'm seeing and everything, the trial balances, are balanced now. I mean, Jackson Thornton had to go in, and I talked with Chris, and he said there was a lot of stuff that he had to do in 22, and he said, based on what he had to do as an auditing firm, he felt like that he was too close to the line between auditing what his own work. So that's the reason he recommended that somebody else come in, because he had done so much with the books that he recommended you get another source. And so now, but everything should be in order. So as soon as y'all sign an engagement letter, if you're gonna go with Aviso this time, I mean, if y'all want a commitment from her as to how long it will take them to come in and do it, they should be able, if they can get in and get the engagement letter and get started and get it knocked out pretty quickly, then things should be ready for them to do that. There shouldn't be the problems like there was in 22.
Is there not opportunity, what kind of expense it would be to actually follow up on our books on a monthly basis? Y'all do that. Cause I mean,
We
like,
can't
I have a
do
small
those.
business in my county, or everything monthly, and at the end of the year, you push the button and it's in there.
We can't do it as your auditor.
Okay.
because that.
But
repair-
if y'all provide that service, so do it.
We do that with some other municipalities, yes, we work with them on a monthly basis, but we're not their auditor, they have to go outside and get an auditor, so that's
I
kind
can
of,
understand that part of it, and
yeah. We just have to make sure, whoever it is, whether it's us or Jackson Thornton or another firm, if you're gonna be the auditor, you have to maintain independence. Just like what Tony was saying, and that's kind of what Jackson Thornton felt like they were doing more than they could as an auditor. So. Right, and, you know, rightfully so, they stepped back and said, we need to not be an auditor because of that.
We want to spread the wealth around which y'all have.
I got, well, that's consideration for y'all, and if y'all like us to submit engagement letter, we'll be more than happy to do that, but, you know, y'all just let us know, and you don't have to tell me today. We'll think about it and reach back out, so you're fine.
But on a monthly basis, our software ought to be giving us a balance sheet and an income statement. We never got one, but
No, here's your.
it should be. kept.
I've got your,
Okay,
I gave everybody a budget status report. I gotta give you.
that's just, I mean, this is not an income statement and a balance sheet.
No, I can,
Okay.
I agree with you about.
That's that.
That's your
Okay,
budget,
thank you.
budget status report there.
I agree with you, but now partially, hopefully, in our new city clerk, if they have the knowledge and expertise to do this, then would be, that you could hire in someone without as much experience and expertise. In my opinion, have this done this way, and then you wouldn't have that as an issue on their qualification.
Is the software hard to use? Is it user friendly?
I don't use the software, you're gonna have to, I'm gonna defer to Nick.
I've learned how to maneuver report, you know, with reports and review stuff, just in the time that I've been there. And so it's not complicated to be able to pull stuff up and review it and look at it. And, so anybody that's got any kind of accounting knowledge will be able to do that. The only thing that I'm seeing that in the past, we had never really kept up with a bunch of receivables and like the lease receivables and things like that. We basically dealt on cash basis. And so, so to be able to book that and to keep it up to date from month to month, it would take someone that had pretty much an accounting degree and, to be able to monitor that month to month. But since we operate on a cash basis, you see your budget status report tells you pretty much what you're receiving and what you're spending.
Question every one time about how we handle that. And she said, cash, this meeting, thing, what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual cash. Are we handling that correctly? We have enough quick checking balances on it, or is there anything to that? Like for
We
paying
did.
business license or either rentals or anything like this that we do, and that's what you have to. There was some question about it, and also in this report, the same thing on that. I mean, did anything you find there was an issue there?
So we have to consider internal controls, and that's basically what you're talking about, the controls around cash and other aspects. We didn't note any issues. That is something we look at. If we see something or if we see a recommendation, we do provide that. We don't give an opinion on internal controls, but we do suggest recommendations if we do notice improvement. But we did read through, the cities provided us explanations for all the.
We give you enough information where you can find a paper trail.
Yes, I mean, we check documentation for the things that we test, and if we saw an anomaly or something that didn't look like fit what we were expecting to see, then we would question that. Mhm.
Any more questions?
Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anyway, I'd like to enter into the executive session to discuss the negative care.